Thanks, you guys. Hey, I'm going to talk more about money. Does that sound okay? Here's what I mean. I want to talk about our building and our building campaign for our new permanent space. If you are new, no, we don't do this all the time. In fact, in 17 years, I haven't had this upcoming conversation, which is great, because it's not about a building. This is the most permanent space we've ever been in as a community for 15 years, almost 17 years. And you guys who've been here for a long time have proven that it's not about a physical space. But what we're so excited is this new space is going to give us a chance and a place to be more of who we are all the time. And so today, I'm just going to give a couple of minutes and a few pictures kind of as a glimpse of what we're going to do at our town hall meetings. And you can put up the town hall meeting times there. Please write these down. These meetings are where we're going to take everything I'm doing in about a couple of minutes and do it over an hour's period of time and show all the pictures and do all the things, but mostly have a chance to we're calling it a town hall because we're going to have questions and answers. There's a lot to talk about, but as a preview today, we're calling this home base because, hey, that's fun. We're calling this home base because it will be a home and continue to be a home for all the things that make us a household of God, Oak House, discipleship and worship and all the things we do. But we're saying base on purpose because we're a sending church. We're going to keep being a sending church. This is a base. It's a launching pad for justice for each one of us as God puts us in our assignments on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. We're not getting a space so we can feel more glad about us being together. It's a place where we invite the community and then launch out. So this is a home base. Literally, that's why we're calling it that. Okay, a couple of pictures. This isn't going to do any, but I have to show something. The hour-long thing has 30 pictures, and they told me to cut it down, and I can do whatever I want. So this is just this is just the property, just to show you, hey, we got a big space. We have our own parking lot. We don't borrow it from anybody. It's ours. This is in Rancho Santa Margarita. There is a giant green area there, which is about 3/4 the size of this entire building, not our space, but the whole city building. It's a huge green space that we'll talk about. There is space for offices. There's a worship place. There's a giant patio. There are 6 different classrooms with air conditioning and heat and bathrooms for the kids. And some people are like, aren't those the basics? We're like, yes, it is. Those are the basics. And we're so excited about it. This is in Rancho Santa Margarita. It's right next to PetSmart. So if you're a dog person, you get their costumes there. And PetSmart and EOS Fitness and Kohl's. It's like right there. So here's the deal. We have signed a 7-year lease. We're still finalizing stuff with the city, but it looks very, very good. So it's permanent, not permanent, but it's 7 years at least. And Shepherd of the Hills Church has 2 locations. This is a location they haven't been using for a long time. So they are our landlords. And I cannot tell you how amazing it has been to partner with them. It has been nothing like I expected. And all I mean by that is sometimes churches doing church stuff with church people, it gets weird. And I wish that weren't the case, but everybody's people. They have been a great example to me and to our staff and our elders of what brothers and sisters act like when they're trying to be beneficial to each other. It has been amazing. And so this is their spot. And we're going to be moving in for 7 years. But it is our place. Our sign will be out front. It's our spot 24/7, which is all something we have never got to do. Let me just show you a couple pictures. So front yard. So we have a great design team. This is one of like 30 different designs, drawings. We have someone who oversees church projects like this for a living. They've decided to come and do our project for free. We have the designer who actually designed all this stuff on a napkin. He's the lead designer for the Lab Corporation, which is the lab in Costa Mesa, the Anaheim Packing District, all kinds of places like that. And so he's our designer. So he actually has some money to work with this time, which we'll talk about in a second, and some time. So this is an overview of what the property looks like. So this green space on the right, this is our front yard. There's going to be an outdoor stage. There's going to be 2 fire pit stations. There's a big terrace, which is 2 of our yards could fit just in the terrace area. And I say all that because this outdoor front green area, we're going to put 8-foot hedges around it so it feels like it's, you have some privacy and your kids can't run everywhere, which is amazing. This front lawn area, this is one of the areas we're putting a lot of the funds in that we'll talk about how much we're trying to raise in a minute. Because we're being intentional about having a gathering space. This church loves to gather. We like to hang out. We like to be together. You guys do a great job, and we have like 4 square feet over there in the yard. And so we're going to have a real space to do that. And so we also want this to be a place where we invite others in, even midweek. And so a couple other pictures that'll show you that. So the terrace down there, so they already have a giant patio, which is about the size of this room. And so we're going to almost triple that and having patio space because we want to hang out. And it's going to be great. So this terrace is a wooden structure that's going to overlook the lawn. So when the kids are playing or when people are doing stuff and we have an outdoor worship night, it's like almost like a balcony, which is going to be amazing. All right. I want to say more, but I can't. We're going to have an outdoor stage because we want to have outdoor worship nights. We want to, when the weather is good, actually have our church services out there because we can. And we live in Southern California. And so that lawn could probably seat 500 or 600 people. I mean, it's going to be fun. We can have Easter out there. Imagine that. Next. Okay. Last little thing as far as community. The current worship center has a kitchen in it. There's a coffee station inside, but we're going to blow out the wall so the coffee station comes out on the patio as well. That's not something ingenious, but it's functional to show what we're trying to do with the space. So here's what I mean by that. That costs a little bit of money, but what we eventually want to do is have a volunteer team that's there sometimes during the 7 days of the week and just invites the community, hey, we'll serve you coffee. It's free. Come hang out in our awesome lawn area in our patio or come at night with our fire pits and just come and be here. Yes, that's all of us, but you guys are already going to do that. But just maybe the community would come, do homework, use our Wi-Fi, whatever. So all that's going on. I don't know what's next. What is next? Okay, so the backyard. The backyard is the youth, and they get a youth dome. It's going to be awesome. So we're buying a dome, and it really does kind of look like that, and it seats like 150 or 200 people. And so it's a second gathering space for our church. It is our youth. It's for them. We're calling it a backyard because once you go into the back of the property, they're going to have a yard. They're going to have chairs. They're going to have cafe lights. It's going to be their space to hang out, so just stay away from us. Go in the backyard, you youth kids. Go back there, but it's going to be amazing. The side has a huge panel they can open up and have it open air. It's ours. We're taking it with us, but the dome and the youth space is going to be amazing. Next. Well, that might be what it looks like. There you go. Next. Okay. The other space I want to talk about, two more things, is the kids area. You'll get to see the kids' pictures when you go to the town halls. But the kids area is really important because Jess Porter, Jess Smith is also like a staff member. Jess Porter, who's our children's pastor, when we were asking her, she goes, I don't need to go see the new place because if it has enclosed walls and a bathroom, it's better than what we have. And what she was not doing is complaining. This is the best space we've ever had. But we're going to have a space that actually physically matches what's going on spiritually with the kids. And if you don't know this, they have to make huge sacrifices when we turn the volume up in here. If you've never served in kids or don't have kids, it's a big deal. And so for them to have their own space, for the youth to have their own space to call their own, it's going to be pretty wild and great. And the last two things, as far as just details, we have it 7 days a week. If you don't know this, we've never had a place 7 days a week. We only have this 3 days a week. And the calendar is completely full. The men's event, they couldn't even get something until Easter time because it's just, we use it. We really use it. Our staff uses it during the week. So 7 days a week is going to allow us to be more of who we are, for the staff to have offices and be able to be there all the time. We're fine. We haven't had them for 15 years and we've gotten some stuff done, but it's going to be a blessing in huge ways. And then lastly, in the very back part of the parking lot, we are submitting to our plans to the city a big square that says Justice Center. It is not the entire Justice Center, but it's going to be the mini Justice Center, like the start of it. If you didn't know this already, if you haven't heard, already on this property, the church hasn't met there for like 4 or 5 years, but on this property, they have an AA meeting every morning at 6 a.m., and they have 2 versions of a food pantry that already exist and are working on the property. So we're walking into Justice Center that's already started. And so we just get to, they said, will you guys let us keep going? We're like, are you kidding me? Show us what to do. So all the Justice Center is going to happen. And so every dollar we raise, and I'll tell you in a minute, we're going to try to raise $800,000 for this. Every dollar that goes above the needs for our property is going to go straight to the Justice Center for the future, which is going to be amazing. Yeah. Okay, last couple details. Go to the town hall meetings. So far, we asked the leaders and the staff and the elders to go first. You guys hear first, go first. So we had like the hour-long meeting with them, ask questions, do all the things. And you guys give first as the leaders of our church, give first, sacrifice first. And so it's been amazing to watch. The 50 total people have given so far and have given over $170,000 towards the goal, which is amazing. That's really good. If you don't think that's good, I promise you that's good. It really is. And on top of that, Shepherd of the Hills has given us $20,000 towards the youth dome. This is who they are. This is how they are. And so we have about 190 plus towards our goal already, which is a great start. And so now they've gone first. Now everybody gets invited in. The number of people that give is real. Oh, I forgot a detail. As far as money is concerned, so our lease there, what it works out to This will be the least expensive place per day that we've ever met as a church in 17 years. Do you need to process that? We've been at a middle school for a little bit of time on a Sunday. So that's all Shepherd of the Hills. They could go, well, this property's worth this, but they're partnering in the kingdom, you guys. It's amazing. So that's a blessing. We can spend some money because we're like, hey, our lease is doable. Like we can actually do this for a property like this. What was it? Oh, the number of people who give. Last thing I'll say, the number of people who give, just like on a regular basis, is the most important thing to me as a pastor. So 50 people have given. There are about 450 people who are actively doing something at our church as far as adults. In a life group, giving, serving on a team. And so we're calling 350 to give. That may not seem like a lot, but that percentage of 450 would be a God-sized thing that I would look and go, God did that. If that means we raise $500,000 or $2 million, that's going to be a blessing, and we'll work all that out. Because we could move in and have church there right now, just so you know. That will be an amazing thing if God would call that many people to give. But because there's no junior Holy Spirit, it's not just that amount. It's not just 350, but it's 50 kids and 30 youth. And so we're calling everyone to give, like be a part of it. Take ownership. You're not investors, you're owners. And that's a different way to look at it. Investors are looking for a return. You guys are owners. As far as the money is concerned, I want to say two things about that $800,000. That seems like a big number, and it is. Oddly enough, the overwhelming amount of feedback I've gotten from that first leaders meeting is like, can we do everything you said for that amount of money? And I was like, oh, that's a good reaction. That sounds great. Because the plans are extensive and they're good. I want to talk about the plans in context of this place. So we thought we were only going to have the Mart for 1 year. We saw fit, and there were some that was going to go with us, like audio and things like that, to spend $250,000 to move in here. We could have just moved in and had church services, and that would have been fine. That would have been great. But all the sound and the way that you walk in, and there's creativity, there's intentionality. We've thought about people. The use of space is just really, really extensive and beautiful. And the kids go in, they're like, oh, you did this for us? There's a line where that would be too much. I think we've done a great job with the Mart, and I know that you guys see that because you walk in and you introduce people and you give them a tour like it's your house. And it is. This isn't the staff's church, this is yours. So with that in mind, what we're not saying is, okay, well, we did that for a year, so every year we can spend $200,000. No, not at all. But what I want you to hear is that $800,000 is a dart throw at trying to make that place feel home like we've made this place feel home. And we've got really, really great people working on it. I think we're doing a really good job with our finances and holding that balance between what's too much and what's going to be an expression of who we are physically. And so, you guys, I'm excited. Jen and I, we've obviously given some already, and we're trying to give sacrificially. When it first came to us, I just told her, I feel like I've been waiting on this for 15 years, not waiting on a place, but I've just been like, whenever this happens, we're ready to go. I know some of you feel like that too. When we moved into the Mart, some of you that have been here a long time, how many people have been here for 15 years or longer? Look at that. Clearly you don't care about a building, I promise. But some of you cried when you walked in here because this is your place. Like we got to build this together, and it's not about building a place, but this next step, please start praying, go to the town hall meetings, begin to give, and keep taking ownership like you have. Let's build this together to invite more people into the story and change lives that God has already done here, right? So it's going to be an exciting time. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but we're just going to try to talk about it in service for January and then shut it down. So let's get to work and let's keep going and let's see what God will do. And we're going to try to move in by August 1st, I think is the date we're trying to shoot for. So that's a great question. So Sharon's a businesswoman and she just asked a great question. It is not a lease to buy, but we will be bothering them with those kinds of things for the entire 7-year period. Great question. And that's a great example of when we go through at the town hall, all these questions and answers because it's a town hall for a reason. Let me do one more, Nicole. Yeah, if you add our building funds that are left over, we already have over $200,000 towards the goal. So we're doing great. Yeah. Free and clear, how do you mean? They do. They own it free and clear. Yes, they do. Well, let's talk afterwards. And I really want you to come to the town hall. But you guys, I just want you to know, all of these questions are really good. And our investment as a church financially and time-wise and your investment financially, come and ask all the questions. They're all really, really good. And we'll talk about all that stuff because it matters. And different things matter to different people. So exciting time. Shall we talk about the book of John? Okay, take out your journals. Did you know this was a journal? Guys, this is John's journal that we found in our attic. This is John's attic, and we just took his journal out. Did you know that? Yes, we've taken some creative license on the time and era that John lived, but that's okay. We're going to do that. I'm going to talk about this in just a second, but this is for you to keep, to draw in, to do all the things. And there's a reason we did this that ties into the series and who John is. And here's what I mean. Especially if you're newer to church, there are 4 biographies of Jesus: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They all tell very similar stories. John tells some different ones in different detail. And he's a different author in this way. This is what I want to say is, among all the disciples, and specifically among the gospel writers, there is no one more qualified to write about the intimate details of Jesus, his life, and his teachings than John. I'm not saying someone's not equally qualified, but there's no one more qualified than John from what we know about him. And so let's remind ourselves who wrote this as we're going in, and listen and read and journal like he might have as we go through. Because what we wanted is, okay, John was at, week 2. Water to wine. If he was an artist, what would he have drawn? Because he was there, he was watching it. What would he have written down as far as notes? He did take notes. He did. We don't know what he took, but like, okay, this is what I would do. The left side is for John, the right side is for you. So as we go through the messages, as you go through the books on your own, take journal, write on your own, and what is God saying to you? But for John, this is an example of the intimate relationship he had with Jesus and the fact that he was an eyewitness and he was there. So he's qualified first and foremost because he was there and he watched these things happen. So when he's telling us, he's going, this is what I saw, this is what was happening. But secondly, John wasn't just one of the 12 that saw the things, he was one of the 3 that were invited into other spaces. So we said this during our letters series, a couple things, but John was invited in with his brother James and Peter into ministry opportunities and places and things and teachings that other disciples were not. Some that Jesus even said, hey, keep this between us. We don't know why he picked John, James, and Peter, but he did. And so even Jesus is affirming, these 3 I told different things to, which is important, right? Not only that, John followed, he was in those extra spaces, and what we said in our letter series is that he was there at the cross at the end. And this is significant because of Jesus and because of John. All the other guys ran away scared. John was the only one of the disciples that was there at the cross. That says something about him. But it says something about what Jesus thinks of him when Jesus looks down while he's hanging there dying. And he looks at his mother Mary standing next to John. And he says, John, now I need you to take care of my mother. Mom, John's going to take care of you from here on out. What's his opinion of John have to be? Is it because he was just the only guy there? Of course not. No way. So that's a big deal. And then John is a leader in the church, and he writes the 3 letters, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John that we talked about. And then he gets the vision for the Revelation. The last book that we have in Scripture, the last recorded book, is John getting a vision of what the future is, and God chose to give that to John. And so he is qualified in all the ways, and he got to be in some special places, and he felt like it because he calls himself the disciple that Jesus loved all the time. It's funny. It's kind of comical. You're like, well, didn't Jesus love everybody? And John's like, yeah, but I'm telling you, he loved me. I think everybody kind of feels like that when you get to know him, but John definitely felt that way. So a couple themes to look for. Not today, but as we go through the series, a couple things to look for. One of them is going to be John's attention to light and darkness. Watch that. See why he puts it where he puts it. What do you think he means? Let's have those discussions. The second thing to look for is John's high Christology, meaning he believes and writes that Jesus is God. From the very beginning, he says he's the governing principle over the entire universe, and he's become human. Like his high Christology is all over it. Another one to look for the I am statements. So there are specifically, there's a number of specific I am statements, but John picks them and puts them at certain places to have us remember God naming himself in Exodus. Any Jewish person who read this or was in Jesus' presence and Jesus says, I am so-and-so, they'd be like, hold on, I've heard that before. It's when God gives his name to Moses in Exodus chapter 3. Moses goes, what are we supposed to call you? And God says, call me I am. And Moses is like, huh? Call me I am, and then when you refer to me, call me he is. Anything else? Nope, that's enough. It's as mysterious as it was supposed to be. And Jesus takes that name as ownership, and so that's the high Christology, like, whoa, he's using that. So look out for that. And then let's put up John chapter 20. Here's the big theme and the three big themes that I want to talk about today that you'll see throughout the entire gospel, and this is where we're going to spend our time today. This is at the very end of the main narrative of John's gospel. After this is the last chapter, which some people call the prologue. It's where Peter gets restored. But this is the very end of his narrative writing, so he finishes in some ways with this. Jesus performed many other signs. Everyone say signs. Signs, that's going to be important. Many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book, in his pages. But these signs are written down so that you may believe. Everyone say believe. That Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing, you may have life in his name. Everyone say life. So here's the three things that he ends with. This is the reason I wrote this down. I wrote down these signs, the things that Jesus did, so that you might believe. The outworking, the product of your belief is life. This is the whole reason I wrote it down. So we want to explore, well, what did he mean by sign? What's he mean by life? And what is believing? I think I know what believing is, but does he have more to say? And he certainly does. So first, signs. Let's talk back. What's a sign? In the Bible, when John says, Jesus did this sign, what is he talking about? Miracles. Things that are supernatural, things that shouldn't happen in a normal human experience. It just happened, that's a sign. So what's really interesting, let's do a helpful quote. Shall we? Helpful quote. So as far as the term signs in the original language, John is the only evangelist to use the term signs rather than wonders, mighty deeds, marvels, or strange things, terms found in the other Gospels, in the Synoptic Gospels, for Jesus' miracles. Jesus' miraculous deeds are signs in that they point to a reality beyond themselves. If taken only as a miraculous deed of power or ends and of themselves, they are misunderstood. In essence, a sign isn't the thing you're supposed to look at or keep looking at or worship or talk about or dive into. The sign gives a direction towards something else. That's how John is using Jesus' miracles, and that's how Jesus intended them. He intended his signs when he did something to point to a different reality about him. These signs that are happening as I'm fully empowered by the Holy Spirit are indications that I am the king of a new kingdom. These signs point to my deity, they point to the supernatural power of God, but they also point to a kingdom that has now come. There is a kingdom of light, there is a kingdom of power, there's a kingdom of love that has now invaded the earth, and I'm taking it with me wherever I go. But also, further than that, all these things that are happening are simply temporary right now, but they point to the eternal kingdom that I will bring in its fullness one day. Right now, it's now and not yet, but these signs are telling you what it's going to be like. And they can be easily misunderstood if you don't look at them through those lenses. And so John shows us that. So there's a point where Jesus, and this will be in a couple weeks, where he feeds 5,000 people with a few loaves of bread. That whole crowd either saw that as a sign of what Jesus was like and what his kingdom was like, or they said, he fed us, can we have some more? And the majority of them on that day said, you just gave us food, can we have more? That's not bad, they were hungry. And that's part of what Jesus, he was blessing them by feeding them. But in the blessing, what he wanted to show them is like, do you see how this fulfilled and satiated your need? I do that for you spiritually, permanently. I did, there was bread in the desert and it was manna. I've come down from heaven and I sustain you like manna did for your ancestors. Get it? And they're like, sourdough? More? Like we want, and it's this really, really difficult thing. You're like, can't you get it? And Jesus is like, well, do you get it, Chad? So there's misunderstandings. But the signs were never supposed to be in and of themselves because they went away. They're temporary. So here's what I mean. That the bread that was left over eventually soured and staled. Right? The miracle that he does when Lazarus, his friend, has been dead for 3 days, raises him from the grave. Lazarus, there's no better sign. There's no more miracle than that. But Lazarus died again. So it can't be that. Oh, the kingdom's coming is temporary. Jesus is like, no. And by the way, think about how Lazarus had to feel about that. Seriously, like he's brought back to life and he's like, oh my gosh, I got to do that again. We don't know how he died, but he died. So it can't be about the sign. It has to point to something else. And so when Jesus is bringing his kingdom, you're watching these moments of him healing someone, of him bringing sustenance that's pointing to a day where no one will be hungry again. Lazarus being raised from the grave, or him healing an illness, somebody who's been just riddled with leprosy, those are healing moments and they happen and they're blessed, but they're not permanent. But he's saying, This is what's going to happen when my kingdom comes. It is a kingdom where no one's sick. There's no more tears, no more crying, no more pain. These are signs, 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 and John knows that. He's saying, treat the signs correctly. And so you guys, this is what we do. If you have been a part of, heard of, seen, experienced, been around in your life, something that just had to be supernatural because it wasn't of human origin, raise your hand. Great. And I imagine some of you here, if you're not Christians, you're like, I've seen some of this stuff too. Great. Those are still intended to point to something else. But we're not great at that. And sometimes what we do is we point to the prayer or the pastor or the church, and we go, that's where that stuff happens. Or that's what that stuff happens to. It's that pastor or that's woman, that person on the prayer team. And yes, there's something to that. We can look and go, hey, they're in touch with God, whatever. But they're still intended to point to the Savior. They're not supposed to point to a person or to a church or to a building or anything like that. So we're intended to treat the signs in the same way. Okay, the second word, life. So I'm saving belief for the end, but the signs and the things that Jesus does, the supernatural things that happen, are intended to cultivate belief. The outworking of that belief is life. Jesus describes that life in a little bit more detail in John 10, which we'll get to in a few weeks as well. He says this, he says, I'm the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. And he's talking about sheep shepherd stuff. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Some translations who has life abundant? Anyone have that in their translation? I've come that they might have life abundantly. The original word, one of the ways that they use to describe, one of the definitions of the original word in Greek is something that is received or experienced that was beyond anticipation. I like that one because of what I've experienced and what I mean by life. So, quick exercise. If I said to that someone, hey, I've got a friend from college and he's doing great. He's got life to the full. What just came into your mind? And don't do Christian things right now. What came to your mind? He's got an abundant life. Money, there's a boat, there's a house, there's a... And it's not bad that we think about that stuff because that's just kind of what is cultivated in our world. And those things aren't bad in themselves at all. But that cannot be what Jesus means when he says life abundant, because we know that there are many people, maybe some of us in this room, that have experienced all that this world has to offer. Just read Ecclesiastes, all the pleasure, all the money, all this stuff, and they're like, this is just empty. So it can't be that. So what is it? What does Jesus say? I've come that they may have life. These signs lead to belief that leads to this life that's abundant. The shortest way for me to explain it, because if you're someone in the room and you're exploring Jesus, if you're online and you're like, hey, what is this Christianity thing about? I don't know that it can be explained accurately in a way that makes sense other than going, well, here's what kind of happened. And this is kind of the common experience. So for me, I believed my whole life. I believed in Jesus, believed in God, and there was a point where I made a decision to follow. Before I made that decision, if someone said, hey, how's your life? I'd be like, it's great. I graduated from college. I'm working at a place that I've always wanted to work. I have a girlfriend who I love, and that's Jen. And I'm happy. Like, I'm great. And I'm going to go to church. That sounds great. But something happened when I stepped into further relationship and belief of Jesus and following him that was so satisfying and so different and so whole that I looked back on my life and I said, I am so dissatisfied with that. That's the best way I can explain it. Going, well, what happened? Did you get a bunch of stuff? Nope. I got a less paying job at a church. No. Did everything, was everything happy? No. I actually started going through counseling for all my brokenness. Like, no. But what was different? I was whole for the first time. As a human, that part of me that is ingrained in me, that God has put eternity in the hearts of men and women, finally was in sync with the Savior that made me. That's it? Yeah. And it changed everything. I have a new hope for my past. I have a new hope for my present. I have a new hope for my future. Is that life to the full? Yeah, you could take everything away and I just want him. Yeah. And do I act like that all the time? No. But it's more than I used to because I believe it. Lastly, believe. I'm going to say believe. John is so intentional. So he uses the verb belief or some form of that verb 98 times in his gospel. 98 times. That may not seem like a lot, but the other three biographies, gospels of Jesus, use it 30 times total between the three of them. The entire New Testament uses it about 140 more times. So John roughly takes up 40% in the entire New Testament of all the times that believe or some form of that is used. So is he being intentional? Yes. Could he have chosen it? Yes. So what does he mean when he says belief? Is it head knowledge? Is it doing stuff? Is it correct theology? Well, you read his gospel and you read the Whole New Testament, you're like, I get what they're saying. But the first thing I want to say is this. So that original verse that we talked about, so John 20, where he says, he writes, but these are written so that you may believe. So in John 20, we have our Bibles that we have right now on our phones and that because copies have been made of copies, have been made of copies, have been made of copies over the years. John wrote the original things down, and then at some point, somebody started copying. So our earliest copies of the copies, and this is textual criticism stuff where the Bible's crazy reliable, we can go to coffee, it's awesome. But the earliest copies we have in John 20, that word belief is spelled two different ways in all those copies that we have afterwards. Doesn't change the meaning, doesn't change anything. It just says someone is correct in the spelling and someone got it wrong as far as how that word is spelled. The meaning of those two different spellings is this. When John says, these are written so that you might believe. One of the spellings means believe for the first time. One of the spellings means keep on believing. I'm encouraging you to keep on believing. Now, why on earth would you have to do that to somebody? Why would you have to tell someone that believes, like, keep on believing? And that's what I want to talk about because you see all over his gospel, people encouraged to keep on believing. Believe differently, believe deeper. And he doesn't stop until he raises from the grave. So here's a couple of examples. Put up John 2. This is our message next week, water to wine. So he turns the water to wine, and John is starting the dialogue that we just had. He says, what Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee, turning water to wine, was the first of the signs. He's like, this is the first one. Pay attention. Where he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Well, in the Gospels, we know that his disciples, most of them, if not every one of them, believed in him before Cana. That's weird. So what does that mean? I guess they believed more. Another example, John 11, and this is before he raises Lazarus from the grave. One of the greatest things as far as just supernatural stuff that you can imagine that he did when he was here. His disciples replied, talking about Lazarus, his friend, Lord, if he sleeps, he'll get better. Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. So then he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, I'm glad I wasn't there when he got sick so that you may believe. And keep that up for a minute, but let's go to him. That's weird. If you're paying attention, you're like, this is towards the end of his 3 years of ministry with these 12 men and all of the rest of his disciples. He's like, I'm really glad this happened because this is going to make you believe. Not for the first time, so what does he mean? Deeper, more, different. About what? About the king and his kingdom. The reason they needed their encouragement and their belief is because it has to take roots. You have to invest in your belief. Does that sound weird? Have you ever been in a situation where you go, okay, I believe, but then this thing happened and I kind of really believe? Have you ever had that happen? Raise your hand. Right? It's strange, but I don't know how else to say it. You go, I believe and I have faith, but then my faith grew. My belief grew either by head knowledge or heart knowledge or by experience. Something happened. The common thing you will find in someone who says, I've had that happen in my life where my belief deepened. It took more roots. It got more solid. The foundation got more solid, including the disciples, as you watch them walk through the 3 years of Jesus' ministry, is that they kept following him. Not hard. They stayed around him to experience more and more things that he does to others, to his kingdom, and to them. You've got to be around him. You've got to show up. If that's the thing, just show up. Does that mean show up at church? Could be part of it. But keep learning about him. Keep inviting him into your life and your situations and your work and your problems so that he can be who he is, so that he can go, oh, he is who he says he is. I knew who he was, but like, oh, he's really that. Or he really does do this. Or he really is with me in the ways that he said he was. That's what they kept doing. And Jesus seemed to anticipate this. So put up John 11:40. Jesus is saying, I forget it's Mary or Martha. I don't remember. That's hard to remember. It's one of the two sisters. He said, did I not tell you? This is before he raises Lazarus from the grave. Literally right before he goes, move the stone, and he's mad at it. He goes, did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? He's telling one of the women who believes like crazy, didn't I tell you that if you believe, you're going to see the glory of God? So there's some tie-in to not just believing and growing in your faith, but him going, you're going to see stuff. She didn't have to still be with him at this point and follow him at this point. His disciples didn't have to be them. Many people left because it was too difficult, or they didn't understand the signs. They were watching the same stuff and they're like, this is man-made, it's too difficult. They left. They didn't get to see the glory of God. But what he's saying is, if you believe, and we're going to talk about what does it mean, you will see the glory of God. You can count on it. You will see my glory. You will see what I do in your life and others in the kingdom. You follow me? All right. A couple of examples of how I have experienced this in my life. And there's literally hundreds. But the kind of stuff. So I believe my whole life. I told you when I was about 23, I was in a church service and I had an experience during the worship music where I just started crying. And it felt really good. It felt really different. There was no reason for me to cry. I just felt loved by God in a way that I had never experienced before. And that sent me to start following him because that experience was so different. I didn't start rolling around on the floor. I didn't hear an audible voice of God, nothing like that. I just felt really good and I felt really loved by him in a way that was just new. It was a complete gift of God's grace and I believed more. I was like, oh, this is real, because that was different. In a totally different way, as I watched people's lives change over the years, and as I watched different prayers get answered, or people be healed of injuries, or people going, I just had a migraine, and so we prayed, and the migraine's gone. You're like, what? All those instances, these little tiny things are going, I know he does that, but did he just do that? Yes? And then I tried to start explaining it away, but then I'm like, no, I have more faith. The next time I pray for someone's migraine, I guess he just did that? And then there's head knowledge stuff. So the first time I taught on textual criticism, which is the historicity and the reliability and the validity of the words that we have written down. Literally, how do we know that we have the right words written down when they wrote them? How do we have the copies that are accurate? And how do we know that what they originally wrote down was true? When I first taught that about 15 years ago, my belief grew. I'd been a pastor for a long time. And I was like, I didn't even need more faith. But the Bible's totally true. but I meant it. I'm like, I knew it was true. And now I mean it more. My belief, I'm investing in my belief, but I had to study it to get there. Now, it was part of my job too, which is a total blessing because I'm lazy. And so that was really helpful. When I taught in our last series, on the resurrection, in our letter series, I've taught on the resurrection before, but this time was different. I said afterwards, I'm like, I know the resurrection is true. It better be true because I say it all the time. I'm living it. And I got done with my study for that week before I taught. And I'm like, he actually rose from the dead. Like, this isn't good feelings. This isn't chills and stuff. There's logical, historical, scholarly reasons to believe that Jesus rose from the grave. There's some stuff that skeptics cannot refute. It doesn't mean he did it. They can't, this is real. And my belief grew. But there's nothing that makes my belief grow more than watching somebody's life change. And that sounds like a super cheesy pastoral bumper sticker answer. But it is the most real. When I watch someone, and here's the great thing about being a Christian and being a pastor. At any given time, I have a handful of people that I get to watch and listen their lives change from turning their life to Christ. It is one of the greatest things ever. It'd be one of the greatest things ever if I wasn't on staff at a church. It's just the best. When I watch that happen, it is proof of the existence of God, and Jesus is who he says he is, so different than most things I experience. Specifically, there is a person in my life who I have known for a very, very long time who started following Jesus about 3 years ago. I have said, separate from anything I was going to say, John series, for this last year, I have said probably 10 or 15 times, when I hear them say something about their life, I tell the very next person I see, Jen hears it all the time, and I'm like, if someone could be with this person for any length of time before they started following Christ and be with them for these last 3 years, there is no possible way they wouldn't be Christian. No way. You cannot explain it. You can't talk about self-help. You can't talk about the Bible has great teachings and they help everybody be a better person. No way. The risks they're taking, the way they talk, the way their heart beats, they are literally born again. And I know because I've been around them for a long, long time. And so those kinds of moments, along with head knowledge, heart knowledge, experience, made me go, I didn't need to believe more, but I believe more. Like, this is real. Like, great, because I've been saying it for like 30 years. This is awesome. And it deepens. And that's really, really important because Jesus tells a parable of he tells a parable, it's called the parable of the soils. And he talks about a farmer scattering seed who is God. And the gospel is his news going out. And it's received by, his disciples goes, what did you mean by that? He says it's received by people. And everyone can receive it. And so are there moments where someone's in a church service or with a friend or they do something and they're like, oh my gosh, I believe. And is that real? Absolutely. But you've also got to walk that out, especially when things get difficult. And Jesus is like, hey, that can be real in the beginning. But the worries of this world, the enemy himself, life circumstances, wealth, it can take that seed and pull it away. So conversely, not only do you have to invest in your belief, you have to protect it. Because it's not something that just, you go, oh, I accepted Jesus in church and now I'm going to have these experiences and grow my relationship with Jesus over the years. Well, that doesn't happen in a regular relationship. Why would that happen with Jesus? If you're like, I don't feel close to him, it could be, what's the investment look like? It's not always that, but there is more, and there's more for all of us. And that belief, when you come to he is who he says he is. The last thing I'll say about belief is this. For the Jewish mind, they would have never taken John's words or Jesus' words about belief to be, know the correct information. Never. It would not have entered their mind. That wasn't part of their culture. It wasn't how they received information. It wasn't how they thought about belief. It would have absolutely been tied, well, if you believe something, then you do it. You do Christianity. You do following Jesus if you believe it. And that is clear throughout the Gospels. Jesus says so many times, those who love me, they obey my commands. They live like I asked them to live. Not a perfect example, but dang, it's pretty great. How many of you heard of a man named Charles Blondin? Anybody? Just a couple? Ellie? Man, Karen, good job. Same family. There he is. Look at him. He's in shape. He is a tightrope walker from France, and in the 19th century, he came over to the United States, and he tightroped across Niagara Falls. It is almost 4 football fields long and 160 feet up. He did that, and then he did some weird stuff where he took stuff across, and then there's one time where, I don't even know what this means, he cooked eggs and ate them in the middle of the tightrope. It is weird, but we remember it. It's crazy. So he had an assistant named Harry. At some point in time, he came to Harry and presented the idea of him walking across the tightrope with someone on his back. Harry had seen him do all these things, right? Did Harry believe that he could do it? Watch, this is where it gets fiery. Harry believed that he could be successful in that. But the only way Harry could really test his belief by going, I'll get on your back. And he did. So this is just a drawing because we don't have any photos of it. He got on his back apparently in a full suit, which is a bad idea, and got on his back and went all the way across. His belief so how did he come to that belief? He had to see Charles do it. He had to see him do it a bunch of different times with a bunch of different things, finally going, I believe he could do it, but the only way I'm going to prove that I believe, I'm going to do it. That is what Christianity is about. It's not perfect, but it's like, what's the fruit from the tree? Put it into action. Put your belief into action. And so John's like, hey, the signs, the things he does in the community, those are going to lead to belief. That's going to lead to this life that everybody is made for. You're made for it. And it doesn't always have to go in this order. But part of the reason you're in a community is we tell stories of what God's doing to build your faith. Like, why not try everything you can to invest in the relationship? If this truly is the most important thing a human can do, which I'm assuming most of you are in the room because you're like, our relationship with God should be the priority of my life, then do everything you can to invest in the belief. Here's the crazy instructions that Charles gave to Harry before they went across. Band, you guys can come up. Poof. Don't try to balance yourself. Do not look down. Do not make sudden movements. Yield completely to my control, because any way that you try to balance us will send us both to a fall. So just be still and know that I'm Harry. They told me to say it again. I didn't mean to first service, and it was just a great joke. So, as an imperfect example, it is really close to going, what does Jesus say? How does he say to put your belief into action? Surrender to my lordship because it's the best thing to you, not because I have an ego. But if you give me your life, we talk about life. If you give me your life, then you will receive this life that is truly full. Give me your life. And yes, does he call us to do things? Yeah, sometimes it's like, don't move. And sometimes he's like, hey, why don't you try the balance? Like, yes, there's more to it than that. But it really is that initial surrender going like, okay, I believe. What do you want me to do? Let me take over. And the crazy thing about us is we have to keep doing that over and over, don't we, as Christians? If you're in the room and you're a follower of Christ, we have to keep surrendering. So here's my question. What conversation do you need to have with the Lord right now as we go into worship? Is it a profession of belief for the first time? I mean, that happens in church services. It doesn't have to happen here. But are you there going, well, I believe a little bit. What am I supposed to do? I think maybe I'm supposed to take another step. Well, if you have this much belief, Jesus says, I can work with that. So if you're at a place where you want to start faith in Christ, then start today and do it with this group. It's a great group. Maybe you're at a place where the dad, his son needed to be healed, and he told Jesus, he said, I believe, but help my unbelief. Now there's a juxtaposition of prayer. Do we know what that means? I believe, but I don't have strong faith right now. I believe you can do it, but I don't think you do it for me. I believe you can do it, but my spiritual habits are out of whack. I believe you can do it, but that person has more faith than me. I believe you can do it, but I don't know enough. I believe enough, but I haven't read the whole Bible. Like, he doesn't require those things, and it's okay and honest to go, help my unbelief. He's not going to come down on you like, why didn't you believe the whole way? What did he do to Thomas? Thomas doubted, and he's like, well, come here. Look at the scars. And then this is the last thing. Maybe you're at this place where Jesus goes, now stop doubting and believe. Stop doubting and believe. And I want to tell you, those of you who have critical thinking minds and smart and researcher hearts and minds, where you're like, I can't calculate this stuff. Just know that your mind is a gift from God. It's a gift. You don't have to change it. And he's going to use it for his glory. But you might have a different kind of step in faith where you're like, I don't believe it. But he still requires faith. But he will not get rid of your mind. He will use it, and you'll be the person that helps us figure things out. But he would never be critical, like going, you're so smart, you haven't figured this out yet. He just doesn't talk like that. He knows our discipleship. He understands where you're at, and he would go, I love how I made your mind, and I know it's harder for you. I get it. But just give me this much. Come on. So what's the step of faith? What's the step of belief? And if you need prayer for anything, prayer team's going to be off to my side, but let's thank him. Let's continue these conversations. Let's honor him with our worship and our music. And we'll take communion in a little bit too.